You ever hear someone talk in circles so long that they forget what the question was? Yeah, that's Chuck Schumer, pretending to lead. Let's break this video down.
And joining me now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York. Senator Schumer, Leader Schumer, thanks for joining us. The White House press secretary earlier today said that the president is not directly involved in any conversations to end the shutdown, but that some Republican senators are speaking with Democrats. What is the status of negotiations right now?
Well, first, we received another blow when the House, Speaker Johnson, said the House isn't going to be in session next week. They seem to care more about protecting the Epstein files than protecting the American people and their health care. But even more outrageous is the fact that they're going home and they're getting paid. And what about the millions of federal workers who aren't getting paid? The people cleaning the cafeterias, the people in the air traffic control towers, the people who run the national parks. And it takes a lot of nerve for Johnson to tell the House to go home when they get paid and all these people don't. It also shows that it's Johnson who seems to be the main focal point of wanting a shutdown, because if you didn't want a shutdown, you'd come and stay and negotiate with us. That's what we've been asking them to do.
Really quick, guys. What would you do if a kleptomaniac was trying to give you a class on why you shouldn't steal, or maybe a pyromaniac was trying to give you a fire safety class? That's what this sounds like when Chuck Schumer is telling us millions of people aren't getting paid while you sit in a million dollar office. These are the same exact people that have like a 90 to $130,000 salary, but somehow you have a net worth of 40 to 50 million. These are those the same exact people that are acting like they care about these federal workers that are losing out on money. I'm telling you guys, I always say it. The Democrats will distract you with this hand, and then they'll swing and hit you so hard with this one and knock you out every time. It never fails. And that's exactly what Chuck Schumer is doing.
Here in the Senate, Jake, they tried the same play with the same result. They didn't have the votes. They didn't have the votes today. They didn't have the votes the three other times. And so, again, the Senate ought to sit down and negotiate. There are some Senate Democrats, I've encouraged them, sitting down with some Senate Republicans. But so far they haven't come to an agreement. And according to the Senate Democrats, the Senate Republicans offered them virtually nothing new.
So obviously we were here 6 months ago, and you voted to keep the government open back then, and you seemed to be against at the time of using a shutdown as a tactical move. I want to play some of what you said in March of this year, the last time the issue was up for debate, and then get your reaction.
Sure. I have said many times there are no winners in a government shutdown. As bad as passing the CR is, as I said, allowing Donald Trump to take even much more power via a government shutdown is a far worse option. Therefore, I will vote to keep the government open.
Now, obviously, back then there was a shorter timeline at hand, but isn't the outcome the same? I mean, President Trump is threatening a host of federal firings. He's already frozen billions in funding to New York, your state, and other blue states.
Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of difference between now and then. Back then, we wanted to see what they would do, and we've seen how horrible they are. The horrible health care cuts that they made were made in June in their so-called big, beautiful bill. Trump even now says they want to change the name. They're so embarrassed about it. And they hadn't started doing these technical things called rescissions, which lets them undo the budget on their own unilaterally. So the times are different, and we don't want a shutdown, that's for sure. And there's a simple way to deal with it. For the Republicans, we've been asking them for months to sit down and talk with us. They've refused and refused and refused. They should sit down and negotiate, and we can get something done for the American people. There are two issues here, the shutdown and helping the American people. Democrats feel we can avoid the shutdown and help the American people. The Republicans don't seem to want to do that.
So Republicans are obviously, their talking point is that Democrats want to give health care to illegal immigrants. Now, the Trump administration, when I asked them, what are you talking about? They said they're referring to this section in the Democratic stopgap funding proposal. It would repeal the section of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that addresses Medicaid, specifically one provision, reduced federal reimbursement for emergency Medicaid for hospitals. And some of that obviously goes to people who don't have insurance, including undocumented immigrants. And
Jake, it's all a lot of bull. Not a single federal dollar, not a single federal dollar goes to undocumented immigrants, not for Medicare, not for Medicaid, not for ACA. Why are they making up this lie? It's a typical Republican thing. They don't want to talk about the pain the American people are in or are going to be in because of these cuts. You know, the average family, a couple of 55 years old who makes $85,000 will get a $25,000 a year cut. Imagine them sitting down at the kitchen table one night and saying, we're about to retire, we've worked hard our whole lives. How the hell are we going to afford $25,000, but how the hell are we going to live without health insurance? But that's what they're doing. It's cruel, it's mean, they're in a bubble. 24 million Americans will have their rates raised by close to $1,000, and they're going to start getting these notices in the next week or two. You know, John Thune cavalierly says, let's do it in Thanksgiving. Well, if they can't do it now, and by the way, they voted against it 3 times when Jeanne Shaheen tried to put these bills on the floor, how the heck are they going to do it later? So this is it's a cover-up from them. It's bull. And that's because they're afraid to debate the issue because they know, listen to this, a new survey from, I think it is Kaiser Health, 79% of Americans want us to renew, to extend the health care premiums, the ACA premiums. 58% of Trump voters want it. So they know they're in a pickle. Now, one of the problems is they don't know where Trump is. When I was you asked about Trump before. Yeah. When I was at the White House, Trump said different things, but seemed not to be aware of how bad this is. And you know, nobody reads the polls better than Donald Trump. He's going to see these polls.
But are you disputing that the addition of the money, the emergency Medicaid money to hospitals, that none of that goes to undocumented immigrants? I mean, I thought it was
no federal dollar is allowed by law to go to undocumented immigrants. It's been on that, and they just came up with this recently because they're afraid to talk about the merits.
Oh, let me ask you, because this is just in, and I know you have to go. Hamas has just announced that it agrees to immediately enter negotiations for the release of hostages under President Trump's Gaza proposal, based on the exchange formula and providing the necessary conditions. Obviously, it's early yet when it comes to this, but it is some breaking news. What was your reaction to that news?
Well, I've always said our goal should be to bring the hostages home and have a good ceasefire, a strong, lasting ceasefire. This proposal seems to be a step in the right direction, but we need 2 things. We need to see the details. I haven't seen them yet. And second, then Trump needs to get it done. He has a penchant for announcing things before they get done.
These people want to talk and talk all day, but talking doesn't fix it. Results do. The left has mastered the art of crying about problems that they created. Polls don't feed families. Policy does. It's just funny to me how politicians want to quote the polls when it benefits them, but ignore them when reality kicks in. I'll end this video out with this. Leaders solve problems. Politicians point fingers, right? I think America has finally figured out the difference. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what you react to. We're out.